Hello and welcome to Flory Models. Here we are for the Tuesday Q&A show with you on the 22nd of December 2020. And as you can see, we are back on it with the Bowcaster, which is coming together, looking very, very nicely. It's still all somewhat of a soft fit. What we've been doing today is we've got the front sight put on. We've completed, we can take this off now. We've got the clear part on the front of this, which I'm going to try and give a clear coat to. We've been detailing up a little bit further in here, so we put some more screws and various things in there like that. You can probably see we have the line in here as well, which is a nice floppy bit of rubber in there as well. And we've got the hooks underneath as well, so we've got some D-rings in here and this one at the rear. And then what we're going to do is we're going to actually put some cord, which we've got down in here, paracord, and we're going to wrap a little bit underneath here, things like that, get that sorted. Then we'll get this sight mounted up onto the front of this one, and then we'll go into full weathering on this because it's pretty much coming together and looking very much the part. So if we just try and wedge that back in. There we go, but there we go. That's Chewie's Bowcaster. Hopefully, well, it will be, because I'm going to get this done today and tomorrow, and then that one will be finished off with you. So enjoying that one immensely as it goes through. Let me just take that off because it's bound to break, and we'll just stick that down in there. In other news, we've been working and we have finished off this little guy. If we swap that off. So as you can see down in here, here we have our very nice M-wrap is all done. What I do, hopefully you'll see a little film of it playing now. Okay, so that actually completes off this build. Again, the thing is, it's one of those with editing, it's literally right in the middle. So obviously you had part 10 yesterday, got part 11, which will be up with you tomorrow, and then part 13, which will be the final part, will be up with you following Monday, which is Bank Holiday version 2, which will be Boxing Day down in there as well. So got lots of this one still to come. The final part is 46 minutes long, but it's one of those where it's not worth doing another part to it, so we've just extended the final part right the way through. As you can imagine, it's all about weathering from now on. So we've been doing things with washes. So obviously it's got the dark dirt wash right the way over this one to start with. That gives the sort of the shadow effect, and obviously the deep grime in all the panels and various things like that. Then grime, absolutely love that colour. It works very, very well for anything sort of sandified and dusty wise as well. So we use that right the way over it. Then we came in with the sand wash as well, just to give that sand effect into the areas. And again, it gets into all the grimy bits and the nooks and the crannies, which putting it through an airbrush, it just works because it's great, because it's just like real life. You're just blowing it on with an airbrush, let it naturally run into all those areas. Not much wiping off or anything else, because we just literally went along with a brush and did it with a brush on this one. Then it was in with oils, so then popping back in, so using oils as in thinned versions, and then using them neat for the streaking and things like that onto that one. So we went through finishing off with that, and then it was just a case of coming in with oils and just flicking around a few little areas, bits and pieces in those, just making it nice as we went through. Next up, pigments, gives the dust effect and just takes everything back, so it's great because it's going to work with the oils and things like that as well, because it sticks and it hangs. So we just went in there with a little bit of light earth and a little bit of light sand, dusted it around just a few places, and then that was it. So totally done. It has been, I have to say, a bit of a marathon. It's probably the most detailed build I've done this year, and you think I have done some big ones. We're going to cover all of these on Thursday night, but I have done some really in-depth builds, but nothing when it comes to this. It was almost every single, lump, bump, suspension bit, you name it, underneath right the way through, internally, and then obviously in here we've got all the engine work. Everything works on this, so the A-frame works, the steering works as well, so that's all good, and everything in there. So again, it's internally fully detailed, so we didn't miss anything on this one. So anyway, it has been one hell of a journey with it. It took a lot longer than I thought because it was a lot more in depth than I thought, but yeah, it has been worth it. It's been actually a lot of fun putting this thing together. But anyway, it is done, so done by the end of the year, and that was the main thing. So you got plenty of stuff still to come with this one, and between this and the Bowcaster, it will keep you going actually all the way through to New Year. So yes, good job on that one. Got to talk about it because obviously we're speaking about it with Matt as well. But as a lot of you know, if I just bring up the details of it here, the post system in the UK is completely stuffed at the moment. And that's their wording as well as mine. So as I say, from now, actually as of yesterday, as a lot of you know, from here, Flory Models are not shipping anywhere but the UK, okay? Because one, you can't at the moment because Royal Mail suspended all international mail. So is Parcel Force. I think DPD definitely have as well, and that's my usual companies that I use. This pretty much goes the same for PM at the moment, but this finishes us for that section anyway. So I've just pulled it ahead. Normally it was going to be 31st of July. I was going to stop shipping internationally, but because the post isn't working outside of the UK, then I thought, well, you know, there's no much point doing it. So what you've got down in here now, situation, as you can see in there, we just put out there, we're temporarily suspending posting outside of the UK. This is due to the current situation with the closing of the borders to the UK in regards to the virus and the delays that are ongoing. Also, the post system is absolutely stuffed, as we know at the moment. Okay, orders out the UK will be undertaken when they are back open and running, because obviously PM shut down at the moment as well, is PM models, because obviously anything you want from, you know, from the Flory models range is available from PM as well now. Okay, they've got another big delivery going up with them within the next, hopefully, week before the new year. So they will have everything that I've got, they will have up there as well. Okay, or you'll be able to go as well with Brett, if you like. It's at High Altitude Hobbies. So obviously anything for the US and Canada, highly recommend you go from him, because one, his postage is half of what ours is, and secondly, he can get it to you a lot quicker. You've got links for both of them down in here. You know both of them really well, because let's face it, I am PM models with Matt and with Andy, so we've got all three of us are running this side of it now, so you can get all your bits and pieces down in there. And then obviously High Altitude Hobbies for you guys in the US, this is his store, and he's fully stocked up with everything as well. So you can grab everything you like from there, okay? I know all the sites look very similar and it looks like it's my site, but honestly, there are three separate sites as you go right the way through, okay? Now, a couple of things obviously that have come up about this is that because of Brexit and all of that horrible stuff we don't like to talk about on this site, but we have to because things are changing, it's affecting everything. It's affecting your subscriptions, it's affecting obviously sales outside of the UK and stuff like that. One of the big decisions of me letting go, technically for the first time, it's a bit scary to be honest, of everything from the sales department to PM is because they are better handled at doing all your orders. If I was doing all of that and all the paperwork went into it, I wouldn't be doing this because I'd just be selling, okay? And that's not where my heart is, it's not what I do, so that's why I'll be doing the manufacturing side of it, and then the sales side will be handled either by PM Models or obviously Brett at High Altitude Models if you're in the US, all right? So they'll be dealing with those for you, all right? So that sort of gets me off the hook for a little bit. Apologies to them, all right? Subscriptions, we have a massive problem. I'm not going to lie to you, the cost of doing subscriptions is horrendous. It's going to be costing me thousands to set up doing subscription payments for EU members. I don't know how we're going to do it at the moment, but technically it's not viable to do it. It's going to cost me literally thousands of pounds to set this up. So at the moment I'm trying to think of a walk around or sort something else for it. Stay tuned, people from Europe, we'll get you, don't panic. I will sort something out, okay? But at the moment it looks like it's not going to happen, all right? Hopefully Brexit, we will sort out trade deals and various things, and this will be sorted out very quickly. But at the moment, as it stands, it's not viable from Flory Models, from my personal point of view, for the hours and hours and hours it's going to take me to do VAT returns to Europe on top of my own VAT for the UK as well, and the cost of it because I have to use a company which then does it. And to be honest, that's £1,000 setup, it's £275 per return. It's going to cost thousands, okay, and that's just in a year. So it's not something that's viable at the moment. I am trying to work around this. We're trying to sort things out, and if the EU and UK could get together and actually be sensible and get a trade deal sorted, then this wouldn't be a problem. But it is a problem, and it's something I have no control of at the moment. But stay tuned as it is, all right? All I will say is that if you're a member of Flory Models, you will continue to be a member of Flory Models. All right, so from that point of view, that's it. What will happen though is that as of the 1st of January, Flory Models will no longer be accepting subscriptions from EU members. Okay, it's just until we get this all sorted and we can sort out a trade deal and various things that need to be in place. But at the moment, for MOS to do to the US and stuff like that, it's fine. But obviously to the EU is a little bit of a problem. So again, stay with me. As I say, it might look like I just sit here a model, but there's lots of things going on in the background we're still trying to sort out. And let's face it, we've still got a week. It's not a problem. We'll be absolutely fine. Anyway, let's get away from all of that, but I wanted to bring up to speed to it to give you a little bit of a heads up. So if you do want to place an order and you're in the UK and you do want to subscribe to Flory Models and you're in the UK, it's no problem whatsoever. You just carry on as normal. If you are a member from the EU, you can buy obviously all our products and everything else you want to get to via PM Models. That's probably your easiest option because they've got everything in stock there and they can sort you out with it. You can't subscribe if you're an EU member, okay, but you can still watch a lot of the videos because obviously they'll be on the vlog page. Watch this space. If you're in the US, please get it via High Altitude Hobbies because Brett's got a lot of your stock now, and obviously if you're on the Canada, get it from High Altitude Hobbies because shipping is just a nightmare. It's completely out of our hands and it's taking forever, but subscriptions and stuff on that, if you're the rest of the world outside of the EU, are totally unaffected, okay, because you're under VAT 1. It's something totally different. All right, so that's all good. So carry on as we are just for the moment, but I just wanted to sort of get the heads up on that one as we make our way through. Me and Matt are going to talk a lot about this as well, obviously on tomorrow's show, on the PM show, for sales and all sides of it from that type of thing, and obviously we do the Thursday roundup show as it's going to be. We'll be talking about it in there as well as make our way to Christmas. Anyway, question time. So anyway, over to the questions. I've got a few questions this week. First of all, from Richard, he says, "Hi Phil and team, have any of you used," oh okay, wrong question, probably better to ask this one on the Thursday show, but anyway, "have any of you used MIG Ammo's Ultra Glue for gluing transparencies and PE? Additionally, will PM Models be stocking it?" I don't know if we do ammo products. I think we can probably get them through one of our stockists and stuff, but no, I've never used it. Again, do you know what? Over the last few years, I've been stung with so much junk, shall we say, of products that, it's the latest and greatest, and I've gone out and bought it, and it's been no better than anything else I've used. I've honestly given up. Unless I see a big thing on the internet of everyone saying this stuff is amazing, I don't bother. And to be honest with you, when I'm doing transparencies of glues and things like that, for windows especially, I do like to use crystal clear. This is one of those ones that I go back. You might have seen recently, there's actually some of the classic videos been put up as freebies onto YouTube, like the Phantom one up there. And it's funny because they're now about 10 years old, those ones. But I still have now gone back to using a lot of those products from back in the day because they were good. There was nothing wrong with them. So crystal clear, for instance, I've been using now for the last 15, 20 years. It's good stuff. It does exactly what it says. It dries incredibly clear. So we're like, when we put all the windows in here, we just did a bead of PVA glue around it, and then we just put the clear part onto it. The same way as I do every other clear part on any model I do. Okay, it's simple, it's straightforward, and it works. The other thing is great with it as well. If you need to take it out, you can then pull the window back out, scrape off the PVA glue because it is just still rubbery. Even though it's totally dried, it will just be like rubber. Clean up the part, reset it, put it back in. So if you imagine you've built your model, you've got it all done, it looks fantastic, you unmask it and there's a load of dust, filler dust or something on the inside of your clear part. If you've glued it down without a PVA glue, you've got to cut it off, and that's going to be a problem. The amount of times I've had that exact issue, so I've managed to pop a window out, clean it out, pop the window back in, and then you're good to go. So that's why I like using PVA glues. And as I say, crystal clear, it does do exactly what it says on the tin. It's the clearest one that I've ever used. And I say I had quite a corner moment, shall we say, where it looked like it was right over it, and I was thinking, oh God. So I was thinking about trying to get in the inside and wipe it off, but I've left it and you can't see it. So, it's worked, and it's one of those things that sometimes better to stick with what you go with. Same with PVA with using photo etch. It goes on. If you need to reposition it, it's easier to get that off than it is if it's used super glue, for instance, because super glue probably will bend your photo etch as you're trying to get it off. So it's just things to think about if you're having to go at those types of areas. Wayne says, "Hi Phil and team, I'm loving your MRAP build. I have a question regarding Matt's build. Is Matt going to be continuing building and painting the videos whilst doing the diorama and figures? Thank you guys, it's become a better modeler. Happy Christmas." Absolutely. I am in the right day, aren't I? Tuesday, yes. Sorry, it's because everyone's asking for all of us. Yes, Matt is. To be honest, I was talking to Matt and Andy just before I started recording this. And yes, so what's going to happen is I will get this up to Matt. At some point, I am going to have to go up to the unit. So I will take it up to Matt, and then Matt will carry on. He's going to do the figures for it. He's going to do a diorama base for it. And I'm hoping for good things because I've done my bit now. It's done. It's out of my hands. It's all up to him. What I have done, as you've probably seen, everything's a loose fit. So Matt can play with a lot of this stuff on here. Although nobody let him do my door. You'll see all about it in the video. I've left one door deliberately clean. It's telling a story, as I always say. So the point is, it's supposed to be a replacement door. He says he's going to weather it. So nobody let him. But anyway, that's it with that one. So it's still all a loose fit, so he can actually put it into any type of set diorama. The wheels are all movable as well, so he can sort all those out and put them exactly how he wants it. If he wants to close the doors, he can close the doors because they are literally just tack super glued in place. I'm supposed to have another aerial here, but it's made a photo etch and I don't want to put it on yet because I know he'll break it off. So I've left it off for him and it's going to go up as a separate fit. But generally, yes, looking forward to seeing what he does with that one. It should be a lot of fun. Phil says, hi Phil, I've been trying to add a topic to my air gallery. When I try to attach photos, I get a message saying the specified file exceeds the maximum size of 250 kilobytes. Is there a way to reduce the file size and will it compromise the quality of the photo? No. Don't forget, we tend to go down to about 800 pixels on the forum anyway. It's scrolling. If people put in like 10 megabyte ones, they are huge and you take forever to scroll past them. You won't have any loss of quality at that size, trust me. All of my photos are that size, and anybody who's using the site's own hosting system, that's the thing to it as well. So from that point of view, honestly, I wouldn't worry about it. There's lots of different ones out there. You know, there's lots of ones. There's ones on your phone. You can reduce the sizes. If you're using your phone like I do, Apple, you can just reduce it and just call it 800 pixels and it'll make it to 800 pixels, and then I upload them off my phone to the forum as a rule. It's the quickest and easiest way. Other ways, obviously, you can use Windows. If you're in Windows, there's Paint. You can just do resizing that and it will then go by pixel size. So just take it to 800 and you'll notice 800 pixels is around about 180 to 200 kilobytes in size, so it's perfect for it. So it is one of those things. I know a lot of people, and I've had a little bit of flack when we first did photo hosting for people. They said, oh, it's tiny sizes and all the rest of it. One is I'm paying for this hostage and it costs a fortune at the moment as it is. So, and that's at that size. So if you imagine if it was like 1 meg files, it would be costing me technically twice as much. You know, if you're using a 10 meg file, 10 times as much. So consequently, it's that thing about just trying to keep best bang for the buck as we make our way through. As I said before, next year things might change anyway because we're moving nearer to the next tier. The next tier is an unlimited, but it's a massive jump up in price for us to do it. So as we get near that tier, at one point we will flick over. And I said it'd probably be in the new year anyway, where it'll be unlimited photo sizes because we're on an unlimited plan then. And yeah, God help us, it costs a fortune. But anyway, that's the easiest way to do it. I think if you go up into the help section on the top of the forum, there's lots of people who have asked that question and people have done answers to it and showed how to reduce file sizes and things like that. Andrew says, I'm looking to get some backup PS270 needles. Are Iwata needles comparable with the other brands for that matter? I wouldn't risk it. I've had it before where I've tried to use different needles in different airbrushes. Sometimes the taper, when it goes to a point, each manufacturer has a different length on that. So if you use, perhaps another manufacturer's, they might have a slightly longer needle. Some of them are quite more blunt. It will depend how it works with the nozzle. And if you don't get a good seal on the nozzle, you can get spit in, you can get it just running on or whatever, or nothing coming out at all. So I would say stick with the needle for it. And also, as you say, like for me, the only other one I've got is an Iwata. That's got a 0.35 needle in it. So you can't put that into a 0.2. Won't work. So I would say get hold of PS270 needles. They're probably cheaper than the Iwata ones, even though they probably come out the same factory. In fact, they do. But yeah, it's one of those ones. You could try it, but again, be careful with your nozzle. Don't splay your nozzle by trying to ram it through or anything else like that. But definitely one of those things I don't like to mess around with. I tend to use nozzles and needles and seal sets are for that airbrush. That's what I use. I always have done for the last 25 years, and that I will maintain doing that. I don't think it's worth trying to take a shortcut because your airbrush, although I do that joke about throwing it around and slamming it on the desk and everything else like that, it's a precision instrument. The bit where you trying to work it and make things work, normally it'll come back and bite you and you end up breaking something that's a pain to fix or something else like that. So definitely nothing. It's something I wouldn't want to play with. Lars says, hi Phil and team, I'm currently building the Trumpeter 132nd F100. For a paint scheme, I will do the green using the Royal Danish Air Force, late 60s, early 70s, to honour my father, whom recently passed away. He served with the Royal Danish Air Force for over 60 years as a photographer. Sorry to hear about that. In those days, the planes were often parked outside and the paint became very faded, almost white-green. That only repainted the panels where the rivets were to protect these. And now I could show you some pictures, and to be honest, we can have a look because we're okay. Oh no, we can't. Hold on, scrap that. Hold on, let's try the other one. There you go. So that's what we're talking about, is this sort of faded effect and right the way through. So I've covered this a little bit in the past, and I've yet to find a perfect way of doing this. So overall colour, you're just going to fade it out. So add some buff to the green or whatever you want to do the faded green. The original colour is what you're going to use for the panel lines. Okay, so you're going to post shade it with this right the way through. The other thing as well you can do, if you want to get a nice effect on this and you are following exact panel lines, is to use a green wash. So use a strong green wash and just put that over it with a thin brush, and that will give you that type of effect as well. Works very, very well. Also, you can use it for the mottling and the various things on here, is to use like an oil wash right the way over it, okay? Especially for this area down the back here, it would work absolutely fantastic. Now, this is the bit we're talking about, which is obviously the heated area down on here. There's a couple of ways I've tried over the years. The first one I tried was to physically sand through it. So I did a version similar to this, but not in the green. I think it was grey, and I wanted to do the heated metal coming through and things like that with blues and that. So what I did was I actually put down the base silver colour underneath. I put down a couple of coats of clear, which would have been the old Future floor care in those days. Okay, and then we put over, and I've got a feeling I used Tamiya, just quite a light dusty coat over the top, and then I tried to sand through it. The only trouble is, yeah, you guessed it, you go a little bit too far, you end up taking it off, and it worked quite well. Okay, version 2 of trying it was another way of doing it. Couple of coats of clear again, which would have been Future right the way through, and being like a wax product, I thought it'd work quite well. And then I tried to use thinners, acrylic thinners, to pressure wash off the panels to go right the way through. Okay, and to show, and to be honest, it worked very well until, yep, you've guessed it again, it went a little bit too well, and I ended up eating into the silver, and then it just turned to mush and gluey and everything else. Also, the mess of throwing around thinners everywhere else is a nightmare, because I just taped these off with masking tape, and it got under it and it bled under it, and to be honest, it made an incredible mess, and I ended up redoing it again. And try and going through the motions of it. What I would probably do now, and to be honest, I was speaking to the guys before we came on, and Matt was saying about the same thing as well, is to probably use like a mask oil underneath these areas, okay, and put them in, and then paint it. Peel off the mask oil so you've got this relief area behind, then sand it so it blends it down and it distresses it and it fades it more, because obviously it's going to be very sharp edges by using mask oil, but it will give that effect. And if you wanted to, then you could come in again, same type of technique with the oil wash, right the way over it with a green oil wash to run down the panel lines and to sort of, you know, sharpen those areas up and go through that way. Then you could come through with heat and various marks if you wanted to. But technically what happened with these, and you know, it was very famous for doing it, the Super Sabres, it was the heat was burning the paint off, and then it was just literally blistering through, and away they went. So yeah, interesting, great scheme, very nice one to do. It'd be one of those real nice projects to have a go with the weather in. All of the green and fading stuff, that's just basic, you know, going through. I would technically said before, you start off with a faded down green colour and you're going to work back to the original. So it'd just be a case of mottling it around, just playing around with it, and just keep adding the original green to your mix, and then keep thinning it down. As soon as you get into this type of area, you're happy with it, I would actually go over it with a wash. So go over it with literally a green hint of a wash and let it settle and mottle and just, you know, be gnarly all over it. And then again, you could post shade these in, these panel lines, as I say, the anti-corrosion work into it. Okay, or as I say, the other one is to literally make up green wash and let it track along, and it will bleed slightly and it looks fantastic and it looks good on that one. Interesting project, definitely. It's one of those ones, there's lots of different ways to get that same effect. That's the thing. At the end of the day, you'll ask 10 people, they'll tell you 10 different ways of doing it. I've tried it a few ways and made a right mess. You know, it's one of those where you think, oh, this will work. No, it doesn't. But, you know, you can do various things. I know there's, you know, you can literally get in there with skinny sticks and just lightly sand in. And to be honest, I haven't done one for many years now, but a good one to try would be with the green and white. Because that is, as you know, that's what it's designed to do, is go through one layer at a time. So you could literally just get in there and just do little tiny bits, get the skinny stick version of it, and literally just get in there, you know, each bit and just panel at a time, and just fade down into it. What you want to do though is give yourself a little bit of a buffer. So put down, in that case, I would probably put down like a buff coat underneath that, or a yellowy type of coat underneath it, a couple of coats of clear. Then put the green on top, then sand through it. That way you've got a little bit of wiggle room before you get down under that next coat of paint, so forth and so on. Okay, Anthony says, hi Phil, quick question. What is your go-to gloss? To be honest, I'm really lazy at the moment, and I have been, because I've been using it this morning. I've been using this. So this is Hataka's, and this is their gloss coat, and it is, where are we? Sorry, I'm on the wrong camera. There we go, it's this one just here. So this is number XP09. And again, it does look like a sample because it's very yellowy, but actually it works fantastic. You can thin it a little bit as well. I think it helps with a little bit of thinner. It's one of those strange ones because it's a gloss. If it's any of the others, I'll just shake it and spray it. But this one is literally a little bit of thinners in there, like probably around about 30% thinners. Gives a really very, very nice effect. And to be honest with you, I've been making coils because mine haven't turned up, and this is what these have got. This is to go onto the bowcaster a little bit later, and they're dry now. But these are white, so I've sprayed them black, and then I want them to be shiny because I use matte black, and literally I've just given them a little bit of gloss onto that one, and they've worked really, really well. Happy with that, so that's good. So that's my go-to one at the moment. Okay, Dave says, hi Phil, I want to strip the canopy and repaint the canopy which I've sprayed with Tamiya XF paint. What would you do this with, please? Do not put any thinners near it, okay? What I would suggest though is IPA. Isopropyl alcohol is absolutely great because it won't affect the clear part. It won't fog the clear part or soften it in any way or anything else like that. So I would use a cotton bud, IPA, and just rub it and then clean it off all like that. I've done it to many of a model. It's what happened to Buster Blessing back in the day, and it shouldn't affect. When it dries, it goes really cloudy, and then you just repolish it. And if you want, redip the canopy afterwards, and away you go. You'll be absolutely fine. It depends also, you're saying about is it because it's a dodgy masking job on it, or if you want to change the colour? You know, that's the thing. If you're just changing the colour, it might be worth just spraying over it and not messing around with it too much. But if you wanted to strip it completely back, then the only thing I would trust is IPA. You can use like Persil power spray and stuff like that, but on clear parts you have to be very careful because if it etches the surface, you've got to polish it to get it back. So that's why I like using IPA. You can just literally give it a rub with a cotton bud, you'll be good to go. Don't try lacquer thinners or even enamel thinners or even normal acrylic thinners, because if you rub it, it will soften the surface and then you'll get drag marks into it and stuff like that. But IPA is pretty good at that because it's just pure alcohol and you should be fine. Carlos says, I saw a video that you're using Posca pens to fill in areas with colour. And gave it a go. I used the paint some cockpit seats and pilot figures, and they seemed a great idea. However, after leaving them to dry overnight, I've noticed that the paint is flaking off. Is this normal? I've never heard of that at all. I've never heard of it flaking. I used it over Mr. Surfacer Primer and were wondering if that had anything to do with it flaking. Thoughts? I'll be honest, Carlos, I've never heard of it before. And the way I got into those pens, weirdly, is because I saw a guy using them on trainers. He's an artist, and he takes like a normal Nike white trainer, and he was drawing with them and putting designs on them and all the rest of it. And then people wear them. So I can't imagine how they would flake. Then from that, I must admit, I went off and I saw somebody who was using them on glass, like stained glass windows, and using them on that. And I thought, well, that looks good. So I took that inspiration to think, well, if it works on fabric and it works on glass, it's going to work on plastic. And I haven't had that problem. To be honest, I did the dashboard all in here with it. When we did the B17 exclusively, right the way through all of that in there as well. But I haven't done seats If you imagine, I've used it for panels, I've used it for weathering, a lot of weathering clearly, and stuff like that. I've never used it for physically going around as in a painting system personally, but I've seen lots of people do it, and I've seen it on the internet. If you go on and put in there poster pen design artists and stuff, you'll see people put them on everything, and that's the great thing with them, because the way that they were sort of described to me was, think of a Sharpie that's paint. So you've got all the benefits of it being a pen that will write over anything, but it's actually a paint, and it's an acrylic paint in those. So yeah, it could be something to do with the lacquer, because don't forget there is lacquers in the Mr. Surfacer, so it might be the lacquers affecting the acrylic. So yeah, not sure about it flaking though. I've never heard of it, but I've seen people use it on fabric, on clothing and everything, jackets as well. There's another guy who's doing it on jackets, and he's using Posca pens and doing various things with it. And again, they're bending and moving and no flaking there. Haven't heard of it, and it hasn't happened to me, I'm just being honest. Ed says, hi Phil, just finished viewing your last MRAP part 11 video build. Question on your washes. I have seen some of your video builds where you brush on the wash and after it's dried you've cleaned it down. However, on this one with the MRP, you sprayed on the wash through an airbrush. Is this project specific, and why wouldn't you utilize the brush on method over the airbrush method, and vice versa? Seems like airbrushing, especially over larger areas, would be a lot easier and give a more uniform coating of the product, and then after the fact to brush a little more on those specific areas where it requires fuel vents, wheel wells. Okay, so I know what it is, and I thought I did mention it, perhaps it's in the next part, but it's one of those things. I tend to use the airbrush method. So if you haven't seen it, what I basically do is come along with just the wash, neat, straight to an airbrush and spray the model with it. Two things, like you quite rightly put, it gives a more even universal finish. On armour as well, specifically, everything's going to run south. So what I tend to do is flood it and let it all run down, and it gives you this. And to be honest, 99% of all this weathering is just literally the dark dirt and the grime wash. The rest of it is all like, you know, it's little bits here and there and stuff like that. But that's where all the work's gone onto this one to give it that worn effect. I tend to be one of those, well, okay, number one, you'll use a lot more wash airbrushing it than you will do if you're putting it on by hand. So if I was to be putting it on by hand on an aircraft, say, and I'm going to be rubbing it all off, you'll use hardly any. If I was to airbrush it on, you would use probably half a bowl, purely because of just the amount that goes through an airbrush. Most of it will run off. If you put it on with a brush, it all stays on. Also, it depends on the effect you're going for. So on here, because it was used as a full weathering effect, i.e. that's literally all that's on here, I didn't want to take too much on. So you might notice we weren't in there trying to get rid of it. We weren't in there with like cotton bud trying to wash it off and stuff, because I wanted it to be heavily weathered with the wash, because it's probably how it works in real life. It's the same stuff. Okay, so we just went in there with a brush and brushed it off. Okay, and then obviously you can wet the brush and take a little bit more off and stuff like that. But that's probably more about it. If I'm using it on an aircraft, say, I want to get it all off, or pretty much all of it, I use a wet cloth, or we'll sand it off and get rid of it. But this one, I wanted it all to stay on. So it's easier to have a nice muted finish and a nice even coat everywhere than it would be. If you put it on with a brush, you're going to get bubble marks, you're going to get brush strokes in it, and all those areas as well. So again, it's just that thing, trying to keep it real world. Airbrush, brushing it all on. So we started off down the bottom, very sort of, you know, light coat, give it something to grip to. Second coating is quite heavy. Third coat is flooded it, okay, and then it runs and it drains and it all sticks. Then we let that dry. Then we came in with the grime and we did the grime all over. Same thing, let it run and flow off. And then obviously we came in with the sand just here, there and everywhere, just to give it that sort of sandy texture to it and give it that sort of, you know, sort of Middle Eastern look. And that was it. It's really easy, very straightforward, and pretty much idiot proof. But again, it just depends on what you're doing. I wouldn't airbrush it on an aircraft because I don't want it going down air intakes. I don't want it going into wheel wells. I don't want it going in areas where I can't get it out. On this, it doesn't matter because I do want it to go everywhere, and that's the nice thing with putting on with an airbrush. But basically, there is no difference in it. It's the same effects right the way through. You put it on with an airbrush, you're just going to go right the way over everything. Great for armour, helicopters, things like that where you want to leave a lot of grime on there. Aircraft and you want to wipe it away, you're probably better off putting it on with a brush, purely because you're not going to, you know, you can just put it exactly where you want and you'll hardly use as much. Probably use twice as much doing that technique than you do with a paintbrush, that's all. Anyway, there's the next part of that will be up with you tomorrow. Okay, and then obviously you'll get a lot more into that one because the final part is more about oils and the pigments that we used onto it. Okay, Stephen says, hello Phil and Co. In regards to the new Kitty Hawk SH60 series of kits, you mentioned that you'll be building one this coming year. Would you be building would this build be in correlation, I have to think what that was then, with the maritime group build? Yes, so the plan is I'll be doing this start next year. Next year's first build off the bat is going to be the Star Trek Enterprise, purely because I was trying to get it done for this year, but we've just run out of time. So that will be my first one straight into next year. At the same time as I'm doing that though, I am going to start on the SH60B, because obviously that's going to be for the maritime group build, or is it a SIG? I think it's a SIG. Hold on, we just need to check this. It's got loads of things that have come up here. And I've lost where it is. Didn't we have a thing up here? No, apparently not. Sorry, I thought I had a thing in here with it all on there. But yes, I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure it's a group build or the SIG. It's the first one of the year. The high seas one, that's what I'll be doing it for. Sorry if this has been asked before. Usually when I tune into one of your shows, I'm 4 eyes and 3 hands deep in the current project. There you go, that's pretty much all of us. On the bench, and always miss that part of the convo that I'm waiting most for. I'd like to be able to clear my bench and wrap up my current projects by the time that you start yours. I can focus on this build along with it. Okay, I think the easiest way to do this is that I probably won't start it until February. So I'll get into the actual Star Trek build, push that in. Beginning of the year is going to be a nightmare because of everything we spoke about at the beginning of the show. So it's probably going to take us a week to sort out, international orders again, what we're doing with obviously subscriptions and all stuff like that. Okay, as soon as that's done as well, I'll be doing this as well. So we'll be moving it through, but it will be in. So if you want to clear your bench and get going, definitely I'll start on the 1st of February on the SH60, because that then gives us a couple of months then to get that done, and we will get it sorted and pushed on. Next year, as I said, things are massively changing. We're going to talk about that on future shows, but what it basically means is I'll be spending a lot more time hopefully doing modelling and reviews and tool things and actually doing the tutorials and classes and things like that again. Haven't done a rotary craft yet, seems being back to the hobby, and I think it'd be more success with a little guidance and strategy. Hey, look, you'll be fine. The great thing with helicopters is very much like armour. So you don't have to worry about perfect finishes and stuff like that, because helis don't really have them, not unless they're brand new. Okay, and the weathering is more akin to armour, as I always say, than it is to normal aircraft. So you can do stuff like this with them, lots of dry brushing, lots of washes, things like that, and really give them that worn down, earthy look to them as well. So great job. Tony says, hi Phil, I sprayed the base coats thinned with MLT. I don't know what MLT. Is that medium lacquer thinners? I'm guessing. And I sprayed on. Can I spray it on a thin top coat using rapid thinners for the flat? Okay, so I'm assuming you just mean normal. Yeah, you can go right over each other. Just make sure they're totally dry. So let it dry, good couple of hours, and then come in and put it over the top. Absolutely no problem at all. And to be honest, I do it all the time myself. Stay safe and mutant free. I don't know about that at the moment in the UK. Okay, Robert says, hi Phil, love the shows and the tutorials. I've learned something every time I watch. Good job, that's what I try and do. On your review, I bought the Procon airbrush, which I much prefer to my H&S airbrushes. Pretty much the same now. I'm a convert. I love that airbrush, it's fantastic. The problem that I have is with the air feed. I have a compressor with a tank. When I start airbrushing, I get good flow of spray, but if I paint a large area, the pressure falls and the paint ceases to flow after a time. If I stop and wait for the pressure to build up, the paint flows again and the compressor does not switch on to cause an increase in pressure. Okay, I'm trying to get my head around what's going on here. My compressor is set up to approximately 2 bar, which is about 20 psi, and I control the pressure with the Procon Mac valve. Why does the pressure fall off when I spray when there could be plenty of air in the tank? and the compressor. Okay, so there's a few questions and I'll make assumptions. Okay, so it's a compressor with a tank and you've got an auto stop start. So technically what happens is when mine drops below, it looks like around about 3.5 bar, it fires back up. So on this compressor, which I know you can't really see down in here, okay, I've got a pressure valve on the tank and also I've got one then on the regulator. All right, so as on this one, I have them basically set the same. So my tank is set to, what is that? That's that one, which is around about 60 psi by the looks of it. Is that right? It just seems very high. Yeah, no, it is. The tank is set to 60 psi, and then my technically regulator on the top, I've got it set at around about 45 psi. Okay, then obviously it's set to the Mac valve, which is set to whatever I'm spraying at. Okay, so that's how it works. And so I never look at the pressure. I haven't got a clue what it is. Don't take any notice of it. What I imagine though is obviously you've got loss of pressure. Is obviously your tank pressure is going down below obviously what you're working at. So you might be spraying at say 20 psi. So in theory, when the tank pressure drops to like 20 psi as well, it should auto cut in. I'm wondering if your regulator is telling you a false lie. Have you actually got a pressure gauge on the tank? Because it does help if you've got a pressure gauge on the tank, because you can see what the tank's doing, you can see what your regulator's set to. So you can see when it's clicking in and out. And on mine, as we just seen there, if that's 60, that means this is coming in at, it looks like around about 45 psi. My tank cuts back in. So as soon as that pressure goes down, it then comes back up. And that's how it's working. So that's your tank issue to it. It also could be your airline. So your airline, if you're using, I can find one. Actually, I can now. No, it looks like I've moved them all. Yeah, I've had a clear up, which I shouldn't have done, because when I have a clear up, yeah, sorry, I've probably binned it, to be honest. I used to have, if you go back in my videos, you would have seen a clear airline. Now the trouble with that is it's just literally plastic, and then although it's probably a good quality at the time, over the years it actually is a bit like a diaphragm. It moves. You can physically squeeze the air hose, and if you look at it where it comes out of the actual system itself, from here it actually balloons up and goes back. So the air pressure is different in the hose. Now the hose, I think this one's like a 3 meter on here. I used to use one that was like a 10 meter one, because I used to go down the other end and spray down the other end of the room as well with it, but it all comes off of the tank. So I used to have 2 of them and they were both in here. Okay, but the air pressure along that length of hose would actually manipulate a little bit. So it didn't make any sense what the regulator was saying to what I was getting at the other end, because again, you got the length of it and it was moving. And I'm wondering if, well, if you've got a cheaper, shall we say, airline, that could be happening. So if you've got one of these braided ones, the braided will stop it from swelling and actually coming apart. But if you look at them, like, you know, I think I've shown one in a video, it's literally like a balloon. You can see it. It starts thin, and then as soon as it comes to the coupling, it gets bigger and it goes back. So you're actually losing air pressure in that line, because again, as soon as it starts to fall, this all goes to wonk as well. So again, braided ones, as funny as it sounds, are actually well worth it. You do pay for what you get with airline braided hoses. Some of them, you know, it stops it from swelling up and obviously bursting eventually and stuff like that as well. But if you go back through my videos, you see the old ones. In one of them, I did cover it years and years ago, and that's when I switched back over to braided ones, because I wasn't aware of the problem, but I was getting funny air pressures, and that's actually what it was. Personally, though, I think it might be your compressor. It may be that the actual solenoid, which is the on-off, when it's dropping below that pressure, it's below what you're spraying at. So that's what would happen. So if your air pressure in your tank say is at 2 bar, as you say, and it's cutting in and out, if it's around about 2 bar, it might be just falling below it, then it cuts in, then your air pressure comes up. So again, but also depending on the length of your air hose is the amount of air that's in it. That can make a big difference as well. There's a few little variables into it, but technically that's what it could be. If you've got one of these cheap Chinese ones, they're a bit prone to this. I've heard a lot of people say about this. The Sparmax ones, which we use and everything else like that, I think they're a slightly better quality, and perhaps the sensors will last a little bit longer. But if you've had it a few years and stuff like that, could be a problem. Also, empty your tank. You know, I must do mine before the new year, but I haven't done it literally for 2 months now, so I hate to think what's inside mine. But if you've got a lot of water inside the tank as well, that can affect things. You know, your pressures and all your different sensors and things in there as well. So make sure that your tank is completely drained, your moisture traps drained and everything else like that, and see how you get on with it. It's one of those weird ones where you get like, you know, a loss of pressure just before it cuts back in. So, you know, like if I set mine here to say be, you know, I don't know, it must be about there. So mine's got a working pressure through the MAC valve as I'm looking here. Around about 47 psi. That's the maximum I can get it, but the tank goes to 60. So that's your difference in it. So if I was spraying, and obviously I turn my MAC valve, my regulator, sorry, down to say 20, what's that going to level at? Probably need to go up a little bit actually. So there you go, that's down to 30 now. In theory, so there you go, that's cut in now. But my needle hasn't moved. On the regulator, the needle is, if I do the tank, is solid at that one. So that's what it's delivering technically down your air hose to your MAC valve and stuff like that. So you should be okay with that one. But just make sure that your working air pressure, as in what's coming out your end of your airbrush, is lower than what the pickup is on your tank. So yes. Again, it's a bit tricky because we're not sure some of the things you've got in there. Okay, Carlos is back. One last question before we're done for the day. He says, hi Phil, forgot to add this question. How do the tips of the propellers, how do you do tips of the propellers by dipping? I tried to get the globs of paint off the ends and they were bulbous. I've got a entire video on that, don't forget. If you go to, it's in the tips area, but also I know it's on the B17 because it's a free to watch. So if you go into the B17, no, it wasn't the B17, sorry, it was, sorry, we get this right, it's on the Hellcat, isn't it? There we go. If you go into here, this little fantastic video here talks all about, I go for size, talks about it. So I'm in here and at some point we will show, so, this one I'm painting them, forget that, sorry, scrap that, I'm actually painting it in this one instead of doing the normal one. Sorry, apologies. But normally what I tend to do is just dip them onto paper. So into the paint, take it out, move it across, and then onto the paper, hold it there for a second, take it off, and then let it stand. And then you might have to double dip to go in there. It's probably because it's 48. What did I do? It's something else. I did them on them, one of them. I can't remember which one it was now. So yes, it was, I got a feeling it would have been the Hurricane. Have a look at the Hurricane. Hurricane's done with it exactly that way. Okay, so have a look at the Hurricane build and it will show you being dipped in there and doing it. But onto the paper towel, stand it there for a little bit, take it off, you'll be absolutely fine. It'll be good to go. Anyway, that is it for us today. Thank you for all your questions. Don't forget, you can see the last part, which is up with you now, which is part 11 now, and obviously part 12 will be up with you on tomorrow. And then obviously next week on Monday, you'll get part 13. I will be getting on with the bowcaster. So the bowcaster is coming together very, very nicely down in here. So we're doing some more detail work. I've added more screws down in here. Got to do the same for the other side. We're going to get the weathering done on this one. We're going to get the paracord installed and all the stuff onto this one. And we'll be moving along with this one as well. So still plenty have come before we're done for the end of the year. Me and Matt will be with you tomorrow afternoon as well. So if you've got any questions for them, please put them up on the site before 1 o'clock. So we tend to do the recorded show around about 1 o'clock as we make our way through with that one. So that's it from me. Happy modelling. Take care. Catch you all tomorrow.